Hey everyone, I'm going to try this new series where I go over my cinematic experiences this month. I'm going to cover August and September first because TIFF took up most of my theater time in September. If you're curious as to what I watched at TIFF, make sure to check out my TIFF review. It's the hardest I've ever worked on a video and I'm very proud of it. But let's not waste any more time. I will spoil everything I will talk about in this movie, so skip to each one if you don't want it spoiled. Starting on August 1st, I saw Nope for the second time at film.ca, my favorite local theater chain. Now, I did a whole video on this with my analysis, make sure to go check out that. And after watching for a second time, it only became more slated as one of my favorite films of the year. 8 out of 10. Then I watched Bodies, Bodies, Bodies at my local Winston Churchill Cineplex. The music was good, the acting was great, the story is very aware of how Gen Z handles life and even horror as the drugs and confusion add to this mess of a whodunit. And by a mess, I just mean the characters are under the influence and often do stupid things, but that adds to the entertainment. The actors playing them are perfectly cast, and I don't think I would ever oppose rewatching this. The presentation of the script and the film's formal elements could have been played with a little bit more to match the energy of the film, but that's just my opinion. 7 out of 10. Next, I got to see Mother in 35mm at TIFF Bell Lightbox as part of their Summer of Soul series with my friend Daisy. It's a tightly scripted movie with great performances supporting memorably distinct characters. Never found any of the elements of this film to be brilliant or personal to me, but this is without a doubt the textbook blueprint of creating a crime drama. Also, that being said, the final shot is just one of the most memorable I've ever seen. It's also quite bewildering and really puts it on the level of an art film, and seeing it on film just embedded it more in my brain than almost any digital frame I've ever seen. 8 out of 10. Then I got to see The Host, also in 35mm, which might be Bong's most flawed film, but probably his most fun. It takes this monster movie, turns it into a movie about pollution, but also is a great action adventure with plenty of comedy and suspense sprinkled in. Basically does everything Bong is good at, and while the scripting of the story and the CGI definitely weren't perfect and need some serious updating, that's why we have Parasite. The fire and the monster look especially bad, but sometimes seeing a big monster eating people is why you go to the movies, and Bong elevates that. 7 out of 10. My first theater experience in September was on National Cinema Day when I saw two Spielberg classics for the first time with Jaws and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Yes, you heard me correct, I hadn't seen Jaws before this. But I hate to say it, Jaws is mid-Spielberg for me. The iconic first girl who dies to the shark sets up the first act tension brilliantly. Watching everyone hanging out on the beach is just a dreadful experience to watch, and it contains some of the most iconic shots of the whole movie. I wasn't too enthralled by Robert Shaw's Quint, so once they're on his ship, I started to care a little bit less about the situation. Plus, it became the longest part of the movie for me, creating a clear pacing issue in my mind. The threat of the sharks becomes a lot less visceral as the shark just seems to float around the ship. And I'm just going to say it, I think there's a better film on the cutting room floor here. Some of the music feels misused, even though it's the classic John Williams score. Quint's monologue and end fight solidified why this is a classic and kind of saved the third act. But some of the stuff inspired, including Spielberg's later work, I like a lot more. 7 out of 10. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is a lot more fun, which is exactly what I was looking for in my theater experience. The expanded scale feels appropriate for the third movie, and I think it's probably the most well-constructed Indiana Jones movie. There's a sense of finality you get from watching this movie, but then they made a fourth one, and it wasn't good. Hopefully the fifth one's better. At the heart of this trilogy climax, you get this cool father-son adventure where you can tell Spielberg basically channels his dad into Sean Connery's character. He's hilarious and pokes fun at the right parts of Indiana's character that we hadn't been able to explore before. It'll be fun to continue to reflect on every dad character Spielberg has ever given us, because after seeing his take on his dad in The Fabelmans, I think he just put his dad into every dad character he had in his previous films. Still very cool to see, and this is a great movie. 8 out of 10. Lastly, on September 29th, I saw Barbarian. This was good, but there was also a couple talking behind me the whole time. I wonder if I would maybe want to see this again if they weren't there, because it's a movie good enough to warrant a second watch, but I don't really feel compelled to. Bill Skarsgård asking if he looks like a monster, though, is so funny, considering his role in it, and now he's going to be in Nosferatu in the new Robert Eggers film, and he shines in this very campy role. The first third or so is easily the best part, but it hooks you enough with the rest of it to wonder where the story goes, and it kind of becomes a simple horror scenario and reveals a traumatizing backstory, but they kind of use that to throw logic out the window. This kind of caused parts of it to lack the impact I think it was going for, but it's successfully mysterious and creepy throughout, though never really truly scary as Blonde. 7 out of 10. So that's what I saw this month. Oscar season is right around the corner, so I look forward to catching some of the movies playing for awards hopes, along with some of rewatches of my TIFF lineup. TIFF is also running their Cinematique program again starting October 7th with a look at the films of Jean-Luc Godard, Sidney Poitier, and a series of contemporary Italian cinema. So those are some of the movies you should expect to hear my thoughts on after spooky season, and probably a couple other Halloween movies will be popping up by my local Cineplex and Film.ca, so look out for those. Anyways, thanks everyone for watching, and goodbye. Man, I almost saw Blonde in a theater, and instead I watched it in a car for 3 hours. But most people ended up finishing the movie. I mean, just saying, at least people watched it, even if the second half is where all the bad stuff is. It's not good. I mean, I don't think it's bad as a film. Maybe it's just morally repugnant, like the content is. The form is good, the content sucks. Okay, it's definitely morally repugnant. Why am I even saying it maybe in that sentence?